All right, welcome back to the channel. Man, I love this one. Errol Spence and Jaron Ennis go back and forth with each other on Instagram. Errol Spence Jr. tells him, hey man, you're not supposed to be talking ish about the big boys. And then Jaron Ennis responds to him like, look man, you don't know everything that I got. I absolutely love it because I think that this fight right here, dude, could be one of those classic fights that we've been looking for. Man, it might be since the 80s. Like, it's one of those type of fights that are similar to a Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, that type of fight, dude. I believe that it is that level of talent. So let's talk about what the two said to each other in their conversation and what we should expect as a result in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So I'm telling you right now, I don't care what mainstream media says or anybody else says, Errol Spence Jr. and Jaron Ennis are built for a mega fight. These are two, in my opinion, the two most talented welterweights that I've seen in that division that are pure welterweights. I'm not talking about, Floyd Mayweather Jr. who moved up into the division or Manny Pacquiao who moved up into the division. I'm talking about real legitimate welterweights, guys that are 5'9", 5'9", 5'10", walk around at about 170 pounds, get down to 147, those type of guys. A lot of people think Floyd Mayweather Jr. is a welterweight. He's not. He's a lightweight that was able to move up and fight at welterweight. But true welterweights, the real killers at that weight class, are guys like Tito Trinidad, obviously Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, even a Roberto Duran when Roberto Duran moved up. But those are the type of fights back in the 80s with I think they were called the Four Horsemen, that were so exciting to the sport of boxing. And I really believe, dude, that Jaron Ennis and Errol Spence Jr. are two of the type of guys that could really make that type of thing happen again. So to listen to them on Instagram, because what was happening was it was Jilly the Kid, who was a rapper, I do believe a rapper or producer out of Philadelphia, the great city of Philadelphia, where the Blackwells are from. Hometown, I'm biased, love Philadelphia. That's another reason why I'm so high on Jaron Ennis, because even though I wasn't raised there, my family's from there, so I always feel a part of Philadelphia. These two guys are extremely complimentary. One guy is an athletic fighter who can fight on the inside and the outside. The other guy is somebody that can fight on the inside and fight on the outside, but is a pressure fighter that is really going to make that fight cook from the beginning to the end. So it's just an absolutely, incredible deal, man, for me to see these guys talking like they might actually want to have a fight. Errol Spence Jr., like I said, is right now, he's the best at 147. Jaron Ennis, I don't even think I think it's a fact, man, as close as a fact as it can be, is definitely the top prospect at 147. And in my opinion, right this second is the top three welterweight. Terrence Crawford and Jaron Ennis in my book are the top three welterweights. And I am not sure, other than the fact that I'll give Terrence Crawford the number 2 guy based on what his resume is, based on, the fact that he's a WBO champion. But I'm telling you, if I looked at these two guys and I didn't know what their resumes were, and I'm talking about Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, if I was looking at the two of these guys, sizing up who I thought would win the fight just off what I've seen in the ring, you got to give me Jaron Ennis, dude. He has everything Terrence Crawford has and then some. Everything, and he said it, everything Terrence, and I believe that what he's saying, everything I've seen Terrence Crawford do well, I've seen Jaron Ennis with lesser, but not even much lesser competition. I've seen him do it better. I think he switches southpaw better. He's got more power and more aggressive out of the southpaw stance. He's got a better jab. He's more defensively responsible. He's got better footwork. Just from what I can see, as good as Terrence Crawford is, and no doubt I believe he belongs in the top, conversations for the top boxers in the world, or pound for pound, I don't think he's as good as Jaron Ennis, man. So the fact that these two guys are talking, I think that this really, for me, and seeing like just imagining what it would feel like the day of the fight, like, man, it's Friday. They got the weigh-in. You got Errol Spence here. You got Jaron Ennis there. Both these guys are extremely high-skilled. Jaron Ennis isn't probably quite in his prime yet, but just a spectacular fight. And also, monetarily, it's a very, very big fight, man, because you bring, and this is something that Jilly the Kid said in the middle of it. He was like, yeah, let's do it. Philly versus Dallas, Philly versus Dallas. When he said that, I thought to myself, yeah, you're right, Philly versus Dallas, because what you get with Philly versus Dallas is you get the East Coast versus the South. Now, why we in boxing are always talking about international, international, international. In the United States, the international boxing world comes to the United States to fight U.S. domestic fighters. That's the way that I see it. Because really, like in the welterweight division, you don't have to leave the United States to prove that you're the best in the welterweight division. I don't think you need to leave the United States to prove that you're best in the world, personally. But regardless, as far as like the monetary aspect of the fight, that's huge because you got a huge fan base of fighters, you know, obviously for Errol, Spence, and Dallas, and out there in Philadelphia, because Philadelphia is in what they call the megalopolis. Philadelphia, Boston, New York, Baltimore, all those different little cities up and down the East Coast, they're really not that far away from each other. And Jaron Ennis, I'm sure during the amateurs, has been fighting in all those different areas. I wouldn't be surprised that if a Jaron Ennis, Errol Spence Jr. fight would definitely sell out in New York. But it's a terrific, absolutely terrific fight now, and something that I would hope that boxing can move, American boxing can move towards and do more often. Thinking of the fights not necessarily as being international fights, but think of them being regional fights. If you get a lot of support for fighters in Dallas or in Texas, that means you've got Houston, you've got San Antonio, Dallas, Austin. That is a huge boxing community that is there and available for those fights, which is why there's been so many pay-per-views in the state of Texas, you know, during the pandemic. But the same thing also goes to that East Coast. And I'm telling you, if Jaron Ennis is received and talked about as a Philadelphia fighter that is on par with the great Philadelphia fighters of the past, I think that you're going to see a lot of interest in Jaron Ennis out of the city of Philadelphia, out of the city of Boston, out of the city of New York, because those type of things spread out. Now, what do I think will actually happen? I believe that these guys are going to fight. I do believe it, except for one caveat. I don't think it's going to happen at 147 pounds. Errol right now has 2 more fights to clear out that division. He has the fight with Yordanis Ugas that we expect to be made and announced soon. If it's not, then he's got 3 fights. But I have a hard time believing it's not going to be Yordanis Ugas. But he gets by Yordanis Ugas, and then it's Terrence Crawford for the WBO belt. If Terrence Crawford is playing around about the WBO belt, then Errol might very well just move up to 154 pounds. But, you know, there's problems with that because Jermell more than likely is going to be undisputed at 154 pounds and want to stay there. So I guess there is a chance that fight between the two may pop off, but I am definitely encouraged by the fact that the 2 of these guys are talking back and forth because they know how media goes. As soon as people see these guys talking back and forth, the idea of this fight is going to blow up. And hey, if I can't get Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr., hey man, after 2 more fights, if Jaron Ennis is ready and Errol Spence wants to make the fight happen, shoot man, make it pop. Or better yet, have Jaron Ennis go over there and try to get that number 1 position over the WBO and become the mandatory for Terrence Crawford and force Terrence Crawford to either drop the belt or fight him. I bet you money, if Jaron Ennis got to be the mandatory, I bet you Terrence Crawford drops that belt and says he doesn't have to take that fight. In fact, I would love to see that. But all in all, super excited about that conversation. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.